The Sports Renegades podcast on SportsTownChicago.com.
Renegade, never been afraid to say what's on my mind at any given time of day, cause I'm a renegade. Never been afraid to talk about anything. Renegade, never been afraid to say what's on my mind at
Okay, welcome in to the Sports Renegades here on SportsTownChicago.com. I'm Ryan Stuprich.
And I'm Ryan Risky, and obviously today the Cubs, very, very disappointing loss, very understandable, and I think everyone expected them to lose this game.
Yeah, it was unfortunate that we had to go up against Madison Bumgarner today, but the Cubs struck early, and I thought maybe they were going to get to Madison Bumgarner, but that was not the case with Dan Herron on the mound. No,
he gives up his home runs. Unfortunately, he gave up one with a couple guys on base. Then James Russell came in, and he's been awful this year. I mean, recently he's been very, very bad. Gave up the grand slam to a nobody, and his ERA went up to 5.40.
5.40. His last start was that game that you were at, right? Last weekend when
Dan Herron's last.
I mean, he didn't pitch well that game either, but the Cubs had a huge offense.
Both of Dan Herron's starts at Wrigley Field.
Yeah,
he pitched all right in one of them and not so all right in the other one.
Yeah. He did good against the Brewers.
It was the Brewers. He gave up a home run to Adam Lind in the sixth inning, and he got taken out. He hasn't been very good, and the sad thing about it is he's been better than most of the guys they've been throwing out there at the number 5 starter position. You know, Travis Wood, Dallas Beeler, Dan Herron. There's really been no one who's done very well in that spot.
Mm-hmm. I definitely agree with that. I definitely think next year, of course, next year they're always going to be looking, but you really need to go after one of the big guys because, obviously Dan Herron is not a good long-term option.
No, he's a guy. He's probably going to retire at the end of the season.
And Hendricks is shaky too. He's okay as a fifth man, but when you have him, as a fourth, possibly third, if another injury happened, then that's not very good either.
Right? Yeah, he hasn't been very good recently. Hamill hasn't been as good. Lester and Arrieta have been terrific. The bullpen, for the most part, has done a nice job.
Yeah, for the most part, except for a couple people, except for Russell. He's really been bad this year.
He was good at the beginning of the year, and now it seems like every time he comes in, he's giving up runs.
Mott's on the DL, and you hope when he comes back, he'll be serviceable.
Hopefully Rosscup can do better than James Russell has been.
I'm hoping so. And another interesting thing to note was Ross has left the team again. He had another family emergency, I guess, and so
Matt Caesar was called up for the 7th time this year.
Right. So I don't know what's going on with David Ross, but Matt Caesar called up again, so that's a good sign. And then we could see Javier Baez in September if he's ready.
Yeah. Matt Caesar called up for the 7th time this year.
Mm-hmm.
7th time.
I know. It's
that
unbelievable.
He's been called up from AAA.
Yeah, it's definitely. I feel bad for him that he has to keep going through that, but at least he gets playing time on a major league roster, which won't happen when the Cubs. At least it won't happen soon once they get their roster set and everything towards the end of the season. I don't think we'll be seeing Matt Caesar.
No. 7 times that is unbelievable. You hope that they can make some sort of waiver deal. Like I was hoping they'd put a claim on someone like Neil Kotz. Granted, he's not the best pitcher, except he's better than some of these guys that they have going out there right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he definitely is better than a lot of the guys in the bullpen. But
I read an interesting. Yeah, the Cubs are playing the Giants this week for the final. This is the final game that two teams play each other. And I was reading an article, and one thing a lot of people are probably Cubs fans are forgetting is that back in spring training, when Corey Black broke Hunter Pence's wrist, I don't think anyone thought that would have the impact that it's had on the playoff race, where that right there could keep the Giants out of the playoffs, because Hunter Pence missed the first month of the season.
And he's been on the DL 2 more times since then.
He has an oblique and another lower body injury. He's just been injured. He's been on the DL 3 times, and a Cubs AA pitcher in the first spring training game might have. I mean, I'm not saying this is a good thing that it happened. He may have unintentionally and unexpectedly helped the Cubs in their postseason race, because the Giants could have used Hunter Pence in a lot of these games. They're trotting out outfielders no one's ever heard of, and they don't really have many good position players within their farm system.
I believe after today, the Cubs are still 5.5 up on the Giants for that second wild card. So the Cubs are still in very good shape, and you did have to travel, to the West Coast, to San Francisco. It's not like this was at Wrigley Field where the Cubs 4 games swept them. But now you got even a tougher task against the Dodgers, especially tomorrow with Clayton Kershaw pitching.
Clayton Kershaw and Jason Hamill, and then Saturday and Sunday are the 2 games you think that the Cubs are probably going to win with.
The Cubs need to win those 2.
John Lester against Matt Latos, who has a 4.81 ERA, and then you got Arrieta against Alex Wood. And regardless of who pitches in games that Arrieta does, you expect the Cubs to get a win.
Yeah, it's definitely important to take 2 out of 3. After I believe they split at Wrigley Field in June. So, it's very important.
They beat Kershaw and Greinke. Well, they beat the game Greinke pitched in. They didn't beat him. And then they lost the next 2 to Mike Bolsinger, and I think Mike Friars was the other guy's name.
Who knows?
Yeah, they beat the games Kershaw and Greinke pitched, and then they lost the next 2, and they played very bad in both of those games.
Yeah, they did.
They won 1-0 in the game Greinke pitched in like 10 or 11 innings. They beat Kershaw because Chris Bryant hit 2 home runs off of him.
Yeah, the Giants are 5.5 out, and Washington 9.5 out. So
yeah, if Washington makes the playoffs, they're probably gonna have to win that division.
They're already they are far behind the Mets. The Mets are 70 and 56. Washington is 63 and 62.
That's like 6.5 or 7 games out of first.
Right. So yeah. I don't know what to make of that. It's very strange, but yeah, it sort of looks like. Unless the Giants can pull off a miracle, it really looks like the Cubs and Pirates are headed to the postseason to face each other.
And whoever wins that game gets the privilege of playing the Cardinals.
Yeah,
that doesn't sound fun.
It would be heartbreaking,
nice.
But it would be exciting. I guess the Cubs haven't been to the postseason since 2008, so it would be very exciting if they end up beating the Pirates. Hopefully that game's at Wrigley Field, the 1-game playoff. But,
yeah.
But we're kind of losing ground on the Pirates too. I think we're 3.5, or I think we're 3 games out. But the Pirates wouldn't go with 3.5.
Right. I think that right now for the Cubs, I know some people will disagree with this. I think really if in that 1-game playoff, I think your best bet is to go John Lester in that game. Not because he's better than, or Jake Arrieta is much better than John Lester. It's just Lester's pitched in that game already in his career, the 1-game playoff.
Yeah, he lost that game, though.
He did, except...
Well, his team lost.
Except also, look at his postseason resume. He's won 2 World Series.
Right.
He's won 2 World Series, and he pitched very well in the playoffs those years. I think I'd want him pitching that 1-game playoff, and then you have Jake Arrieta in Game 1 against the Cardinals.
If I was doing it, I would have Jake Arrieta pitch that 1-game playoff because
the
Pirates are going to run all over Lester, and Lester can't throw, and the Pirates are going to take advantage of that, especially in a winner-take-all game. The Pirates are going to run all over him. Their whole lineup can run except for Alvarez, pretty much. So,
and their catcher.
Yeah, Cervelli's not very good, but so you have a lot of options for them. And so I think if you have Jake Arrieta there to shut him down and make sure you make it to the postseason.
Well, you technically are in the postseason.
Yeah, well, to make sure that you have a chance to go further than the 1-game playoff, I think it's kind of important. I would go with Jake Arrieta and then have Lester pitch Game 1, which is okay. It's really a toss-up because they both have been so good this year. Mm-hmm. I just think you go with Arrieta. I think Arrieta's deserved that for this year.
Yeah, really, there's really no wrong choice because, the only thing is Lester has the postseason experience.
Yeah, he does.
You want him to pitch in that 1-game playoff or in Game 1. You want Arrieta pitching in either of those games. And obviously, I don't think the Cubs are going to be choosing who pitches in that game. A lot of it's going to come down to...
It'll come down to alignment.
It's going to come down to really how the how the pitching rotation is aligned at the end of the season, because they might need one of those two guys pitching on the final Sunday of the season just to, maybe to try to get the home field or get that game.
Yeah, either that
field.
or if the Giants are breathing down their neck at that point, too.
Yeah, you might need one of those guys pitching that final day of the season. So really, you never know. And obviously, the best case scenario would be having one of those two pitch the wild card game and then the other guy pitch game one. Mm-hmm. It's just, I know Arrieta has pitched very well against the Cardinals this year. Yeah, and that game would be in St. Louis.
Yes, it would be, unfortunately.
Game 1 would be in St. Louis.
Games 1 and 2. Very sad.
And another thing you have to ask yourself is, because the postseason, the schedule is you can't go with a 3-man rotation like the Yankees did in 2009 to win the World Series. Do we feel comfortable enough with Hendricks to be pitching in a postseason game?
I don't know.
Not what I've seen recently. I just have a feeling that his stuff, unless he fixes his mechanical issues, he has the kind of stuff that he's not going to be. It's going to be his first postseason start. He's not going to locate, and his pitches are going to get teed off.
Yeah, I think I have more confidence in Herron in the postseason.
He's the kind of guy he'll get teed off on too. That's why.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying they need to make a waiver deal for the postseason. They need it just because Dan Herron hasn't been getting it done. And the thing is, if you acquire a pitcher and you designate him for assignment, you're not losing anything. The Cubs aren't paying him. The Dodgers are paying him. They didn't give up anything in terms of prospects.
Right. So I mean, it's pretty much a free player.
Right. And the only negative to waiver deals is most of the guys that pass through waivers are guys on bad deals, and the Cubs will not be taking on a bad salary.
No, you would hope that they're past that, which they are. So, yeah, but it's definitely exciting to think about that the Cubs are actually going to make the postseason. I think the probabilities have gone up.
Right, yeah, the probabilities
I think
very
we're
high.
well over an 80% chance that the Cubs are making the postseason.
It's over 95 now.
Yeah, it's really high. So
now the only thing about that is you don't really want to trust those just because go back to 2007, and this is like a week into September. The Mets had a 98.6% chance to make the playoffs that year, and they blew it with 2 weeks to go in the season.
Right.
If you remember that collapse at the end of the year.
Yeah, the Cardinals have a 100% chance of making the postseason. The Pirates 99, Cubs 96, Mets 93, Dodgers 82.
What about the Nationals?
Nationals are at 8%. The Giants are at 21%. So the way that it looks right now is probably what it's going to be.
Just for the lulz, what's the White Sox percentage?
Let's take a look. They're not going to win the division, so we'll look at AL wild card. Okay.
They probably
AL
have a 0% chance to win the
As
division.
of yesterday, they had a 1% chance. Them in Seattle have 1% chances of making the postseason.
I'm sure Rick Hahn's going to say something like they still have a great chance to make the postseason. They're going to make a big run. And they're going to sign a bunch of more guys in the offseason that are going to play terrible.
And if you want to look at the good teams in the AL, Kansas City has a 100% chance. Toronto's at 99. Houston's at 98.
What about the Yankees?
Yankees are at 93. Texas is at 28. Angels at 24. And Minnesota at 22.
Yeah, Minnesota's not making the postseason.
No, they're not.
I can tell you that.
I don't think so. They started off good, but they definitely ended really bad. And, yeah, that's not good.
No, they did. I mean, the Angels and Rangers, that's a toss-up because there's going to be a team in that division and a team in the AL East that that's in the AL wild card. And right now, if you're Toronto, acquiring Troy Tulowitzki and David Price at the trade deadline, you don't want to be playing a one-game playoff, even though you'd probably want David Price. You'll probably have David Price pitching in that game, depending how the end of the season goes.
The Texas Rangers have been playing really well this year, especially in the last few weeks, and the addition of Cole Hamels, I think, might boost them into the postseason.
Yeah, he hasn't pitched very well for them, though.
Right, but he's been better than pretty much anything that they have. So
yeah, I mean, Derek Collins back, he's pitched pretty well since coming back.
And they have a really good offense. I really like a lot of their young prospects. They really have a nice young team.
Yeah, and I would say they sent Josh Hamilton to the DL, so they had to trade for Will Venable, which is going to probably go as an underrated pickup for them from the Padres.
Mm-hmm. It certainly could.